Hey everyone, it's Lady Night and welcome to my video for the hashtag New Beginning 2020 series. And my topic today is going to be Karmic Shadow Work for a New Beginning. Now, what do I mean by Karmic Shadow Work? Well, we all know shadow work as a word, a definition, and we all are mostly familiar with karma and what that means. And these things go hand in hand. And well, let's talk about first, like, why should we do shadow work? Why is that good? Shadow work is something that we can do as part of the self-love work that we want to do, because shadow work is about growing as a person, becoming more aware of things that have to do with you. We do shadow work because we feel stuck and we want to get out of a certain hamster wheel. We want to become more successful in our own lives. We want to have better relationships with others and mostly with ourselves. And so one thing that's very important is we have to love ourselves first, because how else are others supposed to love us if we don't love ourselves? And I've seen this pattern with friends from school and work colleagues that were mostly in short-lived relationships, and they would always ask, why doesn't this last, and why can't I find a relationship? Or am I not good enough? All this. And yeah, the thing is, when I ask them, well, do you love yourself? 9 out of 10 times I get the answer, no. And they can tell me all the things that they think are wrong with them and all the shortcomings they think they have. And they also let the person in the relationship know about these things. So they always tell them, well, I'm not as good as you at this or that, and, you know, kind of letting the other person know that they don't really love themselves. So, and the other person sees that, how are they supposed to love you if you can't even love yourself? Nobody is perfect. We all know that. And if we can love someone that is not perfect, because we know no one is perfect, why can't we apply the same thing to ourselves? Why are we so hard on ourselves? And yeah, you can either be your own worst enemy, or you can become your best friend. So in the end, it comes down to self-love. And self-love is something you can do when you understand yourself. And with self-love, it's also important to know what you like, what you don't like, maybe why you like these things or not, but that's where the shadow work comes in. What you're afraid of, things that you feel drawn to, and you can't really explain why. It's just you like these things for no apparent reason. Maybe you haven't even had a memory connected to those things. For example, you like a place that you've never been to. Like, you live in one country and you like another country and you're totally fascinated with it and you have no idea why. So the better you understand yourself, the easier it is to love yourself. And karmic shadow work is something that we want to do in order to get out of a certain hamster wheel. The karmic hamster wheel, if you will. So what do we even mean by karma? And this, what I'm talking about now with karma, is something that I learned through watching talks from Indian gurus or spiritual teachers. So in our physical form here in this life, we can only see part of the puzzle. We are not able to see the whole picture, so to speak, because we only experience this life in the here and now. And we can only observe what we live through with our experiences. So what we need to do is we need to see the things the way they are, not the way that we want them to be. And that is very important because karmic work, shadow work, requires one thing most of all, and that is honesty. So you have to be honest to yourself. And memory is another very important factor when it comes to karmic work or shadow work. So your soul or your spirit memorizes things from before, from other lives even. And during shadow work, we want to connect the memories from before to the memories that we have now in this life. And by comparing these memories, we can find patterns. And we need to find these patterns in order to address them so that we can work on them. And everything in life is influenced by memories. For example, as a child we learn not to touch the stove when there's something being cooked because it's hot, we burn ourselves, that hurts, and so we don't do it. Or we do it once and we remember forever not to do it again because it's hot and it's dangerous. And we carry that memory with us for the rest of our lives. So even as adults, we will not put our hand on the hot stove because we know it's hot. We have that memory that's inside of us. And our behavior throughout life is exactly that. It's a collection of memories that we get, like in earliest childhood from our family. We get the first memories. They teach us how to be. We learn by looking at them and then trying to do the same thing. And then we get new memories once we go to school, and then again once we're grown up and we're out there in society, we also get new memories. So in a way, we're kind of like a vessel, and memories are being put in every day until the day we die, and then that vessel is kind of full. And then we start the next one. And according to some lectures from India, even DNA is part of our memory, because when you look at yourself and your parents and your grandparents, great-grandparents, when you compare photographs, or even if you all sit down next to each other, you can see that you're related because you look alike, most likely. And that is your body, your physical body, remembering where it came from. Because you are the combination of the DNA of your parents. So you got maybe your father's or your mother's nose, their ears, eye color, the facial structure, the hair color maybe, whether you've got straight or curly hair. All these things is like a mix of the memories of your parents' DNA. And your parents are the mix of memories from their parents and so on. So it's like you have this nose in your face because it's kind of like a memory to your parents' nose, grandparents' nose, and so on. At least that's how he used that example in the talk. So our bodies kind of remember that they belong together in a family. And karma is in our body. It's in every chemical reaction that we have in our body. It's in every thought. It's in the way we look. It's in our energy. It's in everything. And everything carries memories. So karma is a form of memories. And confronting certain memories can help us get past certain issues. And that is basically what we do in shadow work. Now, how can we do this? There are different ways of going about it. For example, you can do past life regression therapy. And for example, Dr. Brian Weiss, he has written many books on this topic, like this one, Many Lives, Many Masters. And he has other books out there, and he even has a YouTube channel where, I mean, it hasn't been updated in quite a while, I guess maybe like 5 years or so. But there is one of those guided meditations that you can try. You can find lots of other guided meditations for past life regression on YouTube. And in order to find out what works for you, you may just have to sample them and see if some of them work for you, some may not. But there are some resources out there on YouTube. You can also use astrology. The Druids have done this apparently. They looked at astrology to find out what was going on in a past life, using that to gain more insight into the present life. And then there's also tarot that we can use, and that's what we're going to focus on today, tarot readings. So I have a few decks that I want to show you. First of all, there's the Art History Tarot for Past Lives by Red Orchid Publishing. This one was specifically designed to do past life readings with, but some decks that I use for past life readings also, one is the Stretch Tarot by John Stretch, but you can also use a regular RWS deck. For me, one of my favorites is the Los Scarabeo Tarot, so I use that one. And this deck, the Röhrig Tarot, this is the Spanish version. This one was actually designed as a psychological tool because the creator of this deck, he is a Scientologist, and he created this deck first and foremost because he is a painter and he wanted to do a tarot deck because other painters have done that in the past as well. And he was interested in designing something that can be used as a tool for self-discovery. This was never created for any kind of divination. That was never his goal, his intention. So this, from the very beginning, was created for something like shadow work, and I think it works very well for that, and that's why I use it for that. So these are the 4 decks that I'm going to be working with today. And I'm going to show you some spreads from this book. This is by Sarah Paul, and there are a few spreads in here that are very interesting, some not so much, but yeah, definitely something we can use. And I have also modified one of the spreads from here today. Another thing that I just want to throw in very quickly, there's also a really good time for shadow work, and that is during Mercury retrograde, because Mercury retrograde is for all things past. What we know from retrograde so far is it's best not to sign any new contracts or to build towards the future, because that may not be long lasting. But if you have a business, for example, and you want to get some old clients back, Mercury retrograde is the perfect time. Handing in your taxes to get the money back, Mercury retrograde, perfect time. And the same for past life readings. Since we want to go into the past and really dig around in there, Mercury retrograde is an ideal time. Of course, you can do it any other day, but if you want some extra cosmic help, why not the retrograde? And I already have looked at the dates for 2020 when we have Mercury retrograde, and it's basically during the water signs. So we have it from February 18 to March 9th during Pisces. We have it in June 17 to July 12th during Cancer, and also October 13th to November 3rd during Scorpio. So these times are perfect for all of that. So yeah, handing in your taxes, that's probably during Pisces. Just saying, I mean, try it. So now I'm going to show you some spreads that we can do, and I'm going to turn the camera around so I can show you what I wrote down. And then I'm going to show you 2 example readings, and we're actually going to use all 4 decks. So yeah, just maybe get something to write, or you can just watch it back and then take screenshots of this, so you can try this as well. And I'm going to do readings on myself and talk about the things that I learned about myself so I can show you how I do it. Now let's turn the camera around. So the first spread that I want to show you is this one from the book by Sarah Paul. And it is a 6-card spread, and you can see here how the 6 cards are laid out, basically just next to one another, to look into one of your past lives. And the positions are birth, childhood, adult occupation, adult marriage or relationships, death, and the theme of your life. The second spread that I want to show you is a 10-card past life circle. And you can see there's 1 card in the middle, and then you put the other cards starting at the bottom, going clockwise all around in a circle. And this is for a more detailed look into the last life. So you have position number 1 is the influence from a former life, so the second to last, the one that you came into the past life from. And then you go around with birth, childhood, adult life, occupation, marriage or relationships, your greatest desire, old age, death, and the life theme. This is a 14-card past life spread, and this is actually one that I want to show you in just a minute. And you can see the cards, you have 1 card on the top and then 3 rows of 3 and then 4 more cards on the bottom. And this one is connecting the current life, the last, and the second to last life. So the card on the top, number 1, is your soul coming into the past or last life. Number 2, the environment. 3, early years. 4, education. 5, accomplishments. 6, occupation. 7, social status. 8, relationships. 9, family life. 10, death. And then number 11 and 12 are for the lessons that you learned. And 13 and 14 are the effect on your current life. Okay. So this is what the 14-card spread looks like now, but I've done it sideways to fit it into the frame. Up here, that's card number 1, and then we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. For some of these, I got more cards than were needed, but they just jumped out, so I took them. Okay. The very first one up here is the Hermit, and that is my soul coming into this past life. And for me, that is very, focused on inner work, doing my own thing, and just trying to find my place in the world. Now, for my environment, I have the Ace of Cups, my early years, the Hanged Man, and for number 4, education, I have the Six of Wands. Now, what I immediately looked at when I saw the Hanged Man for my early years, the next card that I wanted to look at was the family situation. And here, I got, the 9 of Pentacles and the Page of Pentacles. And the keywords on these cards are wealth, for example, and diligence. So let's just go through these cards really quick and then I'll do my analysis. So for number 5, I have the Hierophant. That is accomplishments. For my occupation, I have the High Priestess. And for social status, I've got the 4 of Cups. My relationships, I have Judgment. Now family has 2 cards, the 9 of Pentacles and the Page of Pentacles. And for death, I have the 5 of Pentacles. The lesson learned cards up here are the Emperor, the King of Swords, and the 10 of Swords. And the effect on my current life are the Ace of Wands, the 10 of Cups, and the 9 of Wands. So for me, what this means is I pretty much came from a family that was, as it says here, wealthy. But the struggle for me that I see in this reading is that I didn't really embrace the family legacy. Instead, I was opting more for a spiritual life. So the Hermit is something that I already brought with me from the life before that one. And this to me just says that all the glitz and glamour that comes with living in a wealthy family was never really my thing. Instead, I was always looking for more meaning in spirituality. And I even have the High Priestess as occupation. I have the Hierophant as accomplishments. So what this means for me is that I really may have turned away from my family and from their expectations, from family legacy or whatever that was, and moved towards a more fulfilling life for me. Even though, I mean, the environment, Ace of Cups, was very loving, but, you know, my early years, the Hanged Man, shows that I already had a different perspective on things, that I saw things differently. And this is where, maybe in more traditional times, back in the past, a struggle might come in. So, I wanted something else than my family had planned for me. And my education, the 6 of Wands, yeah, for me, I wanted something fulfilling. And it doesn't mean that any kind of education I would have gotten, I couldn't have used that for spiritual studies as well. So I received a good education. And when it comes to social status with the 4 of Cups, that just speaks to me again to not really wanting to be part of the family circus, you know, doing the whining and dining of people, but really doing my own thing. And so death, the 5 of Pentacles, the key word is worry, but maybe the only thing that I did worry about was that I wasn't able to really get my family on board with this, or that there was a falling out with family, and that I chose my life over what they had planned, and this just didn't go together. So the lesson that I learned was, and here I have the Emperor and the King of Swords, so, and then the 10 of Swords, so male authority was probably not what I was looking for. And in a way, I guess I had to metaphorically die, or the old part of me, that old family legacy within me had to die, so that I could then, like we have here in the Judgment, the butterfly, you know, be kind of reborn into my own path and do my own thing. And the effect that this has on my current life, and here we have the Ace of Wands, the Nine of Wands, and the Ten of Cups, is that I haven't given up on it. I stayed strong. I stood my ground. I stood by my beliefs. And now, I mean, with the Ten of Cups, the perfect or the ideal situation is that my family is embracing the same spiritual path that I'm on. And I have the opportunity to talk to them about these kind of things. We're throwing around ideas. They ask me for readings. And all of these things are now what I would have liked them to be back then, in this life here. And the interesting thing is that the way my life has turned out right now was influenced by many things. It started with the Second World War, when my grandma was still a child. Her parents died during that time, and all the spirituality that had been in my family up until that point was then lost. Because apparently my grandma's mother and one of her sisters, they were also interested in spirituality. One was reading cards, the other one was interested in astrology. But my grandma was 5 when her mother died, so of course she wasn't taught any of that. And her father died when she was 12, so that was the end of everything in that sense. And then, after the war, when the two Germanys were divided, and I grew up in East Germany, religion was not a thing. So any church-based religion that may have been around in previous lives was definitely not an issue for me in this life. And since my grandma, when her parents died, had a really bad experience at church because the bishop or the pastor told her, when she asked why God took away her parents, that he did that because he punishes those the hardest that he loves the most. So that guy was honestly telling a 12-year-old grieving girl that just because God loves her so much, he had to take away her parents. And that was it for my grandma, and she turned her back on the church, and she only did the 2 more years until she was 14, and she got her communion. And that was it. She never returned to church, and she kept all of us away from that. And everything else that she experienced spiritually, because she had visions in her dreams, she kept all of that to herself. Because in East Germany, religious people were, especially when they were going to church, kind of like 2nd or 3rd class citizens, because religion was teaching something different than the government. And so, yeah, the government didn't like religion too much. But when the two Germanys reunited, when the wall came down, and I started, researching all these different things to find my spiritual path, at first my grandma was a bit hesitant. She thought that I would turn into a Satanist, but I didn't. So she opened up more and more, told me more about her spiritual life, and that also invited my mom into the circle. And also my uncle started talking about some things, but he was going more into the direction of quantum physics to explain everything. But yeah, now when we get together at Christmas, for example, we sit and talk about these kind of things, and we throw around theories and all of that. So yeah, now with the Ten of Cups, I really have what I apparently didn't have in other lives, or at least not in this one. And this is the last spread that I want to show you today. It is a 15-card past life reading. And this is the original that is in the book by Sarah Paul. And you have 3 rows, one for the past, one for the present, and one for the future life. And you have birth, childhood, adult life, senior years, and death in each row. But I find this a bit problematic because this could lead more to fear or self-fulfilling prophecy, especially with card number 5, the death, because looking into the death of this life and even into the one of a future life you haven't even lived yet, that can be a bit, well, not very helpful. So what I have done is I modified this, and this is what I came up with instead. We're keeping the same positions, 3 rows. You can also just do 2, depending on how many lives you want to look into. And the bottom row is always the current life, the one above that, the last life, and the one above that, the second to last, and so on. So number 1 is the influence from a previous life. Number 2, the environment and family. Number 3, how I see myself in each lifetime. Number 4, how others see me. And number 5, my life lesson, which will then go back the next row, number 1, the influence you take from your past life to the previous, or not from the past to the current life, or from the second to last. And this is a spread where I'm going to use a different tarot deck for each life. And the reason for that is so that I can identify certain patterns. For example, if there is a certain thing coming up in one life, let's say there's a very specific card, let's say the Tower card. And the Tower card comes up in one of those rows. But if I haven't learned my lesson, and the Tower card would actually need to appear again to show me that I haven't learned my lesson yet, I don't have it anymore, and my deck would have to find a similar card to show me the same thing. And that's why I'm using one deck per life, so that I can see if there are any doubles, like if the Tower card, for example, would appear more than just in one life. And therefore, it is easier for me to identify patterns. Now let's look at an example reading. This is now my modified version of the 15 card past life reading. The deck in the top row is the Art History Tarot for Past Lives. That is this one. In the middle, I have used the Röhrig Tarot, and the one on the bottom is my Lo Scarabeo Tarot. And the bottom row is for my current life, the middle is for the life before that, and the top, the life before that one. The first card at the top, and I got 2 cards for that again, is the influence from a previous life, and here I got China and Betrayal. Now, the very first reading that I did with this deck also got me this Betrayal card as the very first card, as like the theme. And I may have lived in China previously, like prior to that life. So Betrayal is once again a theme for me. The environment that I lived in, the family, is Europe. Then the How I See Myself card is Prison. How Others See Me, I have True Friend and Loss. And the last card, Friendship, is my life lesson. The way that I use this deck specifically in this reading is I'm going by the keywords that are written on the cards. So in this case, Betrayal is the thing that I'm taking from this card, and I'm not looking at 7 of Swords, even though that will be interesting in a moment. But yeah, Betrayal is the thing that I take from this card, and that's how I read it. And just quickly going through the other rows, in my last life, the influence from previous life, I have the Temperance, And I have the King of Coins, or Discs. For my environment and family, I have the 7 of Discs. The Hanged Man, for how I see myself. Then I've got Judgment, for how others see me. And the Hierophant, for my life lesson. And then coming into the current life, I've got the 5 of Swords, for my influence from previous life. The 10 of Pentacles, for my environment and family. The 7 of Swords for how I see myself, and then the Knave of Pentacles and Knight of Pentacles for how others see me, and the Ace of Cups and the 6 of Pentacles for my life lesson. So what this is telling me is a very consistent story, because looking at this, for example, I talked about finding patterns. So I have the 7 of Swords card with betrayal in one aspect, and I also have the 7 of Swords card down here. So that one appeared twice. I have the True Friend card, wait, up there, is the Knight of Pentacles, and I've got the Knight of Pentacles, wait, down here as well. So that's even the same position, the same line. I have the Hierophant again for life lessons, so my spirituality, the last life. I've got the Judgment card, the Hanged Man, so those the 14 card reading that I did belongs to this row here. So the Hanged Man is still there, the Judgment is still there, and the Hierophant is still there. And the King of Coins, I didn't have that one, and Temperance I didn't have. So what I'm getting from this reading is, of course it would be interesting to see what one row above that one would look like, because betrayal here is the theme coming into this from the last life. So yeah, I can only speculate about that for now. But apparently living in a European society, in a European environment, must have meant certain rules, certain cultural rules, certain expectations, certain religion that was going on. And the way that I saw myself imprisoned, kind of like stuck in a situation that I didn't want to be in, that I didn't want these certain expectations that were there, whether they were from society or from my family. I wasn't happy with it. And how others saw me, and I got the True Friend card and loss. So yeah, maybe they saw that I could be someone that they could, have in their lives, but maybe because I was going against what was considered the norm, maybe, or what was expected of me, loss of friendships may have been happening. And so my life lesson for that one was friendship, and how to connect with people that may have different opinions or different lifestyles. So I took that into the next. So with the King of Coins, we're kind of like connecting this to the 14 card reading I just did. This is that life, the one in the middle now. So we've got the King of Coins, influence from the previous life. Well, seemingly coming from a good family again, but feeling kind of out of balance with the Temperance here. And the family card, I've got the 7 of Pentacles, feeling out of place, not really belonging, kind of like, yeah, why can't I have a different family? Why does my family do the things they do, believe the things they believe? So how I see myself, the Hanged Man, once again, I have a different opinion on how I want to live my life and what certain things should be. How others see me, Judgment, well, yeah, maybe not happy that I chose something else, feeling that I would judge them. And also for me, this Judgment card is also the process of being reborn, leaving something old behind, moving into something new. And I guess people were aware of that transformation. And so my life lesson here was the spirituality, the spiritual teacher, the Hierophant that I had, the Hierophant and the High Priestess in the 14 card reading for accomplishments in my job. So I moved away from like the worldly possessions into a more spiritual life. And that brings us to this life. So the influence from the previous life, the Five of Swords, alienating other people, doing something that they might not like, and in the end, you know, I'm all alone. But the good thing is, environment and family-wise, I got the Ten of Pentacles, and in this life, everything worked out fine. I got a family that is also interested in my spiritual path, that has followed me onto this path. But yeah, how I see myself, the Seven of Swords in this case, kind of still sneaking around, because I'm not out of the tarot closet, I'm not out of the witchy closet, and my grandparents-in-law are still like very strict church religious people, and to them I can't really say what I do or what I believe in. It's a topic that's not being discussed. So in my family, or my extended family in this sense, I can't really be myself, and also out in public I'm not really talking about it, and that might be because I have had difficult experiences with that in the past, where I did live that out openly, because if I did that as a job, if I may have become, like if it's church-based religion, maybe I was a nun or a monk, maybe I went like completely into it. And now, because of previously bad experiences, I don't want to risk being told by people again that what I'm doing is wrong. And so here, that is actually the part of shadow work that I need to focus on in this life. Because I am hiding. I didn't do it before, and I had a bad experience, maybe even more than one. So now I decided, okay, now I have my family on my side, but everyone else out there in public, well, I don't know how they're going to react. So I am enjoying the time with my family, but I'm taking it very, very slow, and I'm very, very cautious when it comes to the outside world. So how others see me? Well, I got the Knight of Pentacles in both of these. Like here, the True Friend card is the Knight of Pentacles, and it's down here. So I'm kind of moving into a situation where I can, you know, live my spiritual life and find a way to combine it with the worldly life. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to get any kind of riches from this, but it's like kind of reconciling these two worlds that I have kept apart for so long, apparently. And my life lesson, I've got the Ace of Pentacles and the Six of Coins. So this time I can really love what I'm doing, enjoy what I'm doing. Everything that I didn't have before with my family, breaking away from them, I have now. And this allows me a certain kind of generosity, in a sense that I can share my belief. I can share what I think. I can even help my family discover new things. I can point them in a certain direction, and then they take it from there. So this Generosity for me is also, for example, my sister, when she was pregnant with her first child, she already asked that if her child would be spiritually interested, would I teach that child? And of course I said yes. So yeah, passing knowledge on to the next generation for me is also something that falls under generosity. This doesn't necessarily have to mean money. Generosity can be many different things. And for her to even ask me, that I also consider to be very generous, because she didn't have to do that. But she wanted to. And she thought that before her kids, you know, go around learning things from somewhere else, why not learn them inside of the family? You know, and then take it from there. So this is my very extended version of past life readings, because I'm combining different readings and I can see a pattern, definitely. And yeah, now all that's left to do, I mean, this is not going to be done with one or two more readings, is to really look at the details. So the question now is, what do I do with all of this information? For me, this is pretty much like the bigger picture, and from now on, like in my focus years, I'm going to spend more time doing past life readings, and I want to zoom in on certain things. For example, what religion was I doing? Was it a different religion each time? Was I always drawn to the kind of spiritual things I do now? Or was it church-based religion? The family dynamics, what was that like? And maybe even finding out if some of the family members that I have now have also been part of my family back then, and maybe what kind of constellation that was. So trying to get more and more details so that the kind of still blurry picture gets more and more in focus every time. And that's what I want to do, so that I can really put my finger on some issues and find out why, and maybe also when to work on it, and to break any leftover karmic debt, like to get rid of that, so that I can start fresh next time. So yeah, if you found any of this helpful, I would love for you to write me a comment, tell me what you think about it. Have you done karmic shadow work? Have you done past life readings? What do you think about it? What are your experiences? If you have any questions, also feel free to write me a comment, or if there's something that you want to talk about and you don't want to share it with the public, I will leave my email in the description box, so you can also write me an email. But like I said, I'm only at the beginning of my studies, so I'm also interested in hearing from people who are already ahead of me in the journey, and find out what they think. So yeah, please share your experiences. And thank you very much for watching today, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!